People throw around that word epic quite a lot these days. Everything is epic. The movie, the party, the game. But the truth is, most of those things aren't epic at all. They're momentarily exciting, sure, but they don't carry the weight that the word epic actually implies. Because something truly epic, well, that's something that shakes the foundations of who you are. It's something that challenges you, that demands something from you. It's the moment when chaos and order meet, when you step into the unknown and confront it willingly. That's what makes a life epic. See, most people think that the epic stories belong to heroes in myths or films, the Odysseus, the Frodo, the Iron Man. But that's not true. The epic story is your story. It's the daily battle to rise above who you were yesterday, to bring order to your life, and to confront the dragons that threaten to destroy you from within and without. Now, think about it. You wake up every morning, and the world presents itself to you as a series of problems. Things to fix, things to manage, things to endure. You could say, well, life's unfair, and that would be true. But you could also say, life is an opportunity to make something magnificent out of what's broken. And that's far truer and far more powerful. That's the essence of something epic. It's not about spectacle, it's about transformation. It's about willingly shouldering responsibility and discovering in that burden the potential for meaning. Because meaning, not happiness, not comfort, meaning is what makes existence worthwhile. Meaning is what makes suffering endurable. So what if, just imagine, you began to live as though your actions actually mattered, as though every choice you made rippled outward into eternity. Because in some very real sense they do. You might think your life is small, but the smallest act of courage, the smallest gesture of honesty can set off a chain reaction that changes everything. And that's epic. That's the real thing. It's not fireworks or fame or fleeting glory. It's the man who decides to stand up straight with his shoulders back and tell the truth even when it costs him. It's the woman who brings order to her home, who nurtures her children, who creates beauty and stability in a world that's collapsing into chaos. That's epic. That's heroism in its purest form. And so, when you face that darkness, your fear, your weakness, your resentment, remember that confrontation is the story. That's where the transformation happens. That's where the ordinary becomes extraordinary. When you take that one step forward, when you bear the responsibility that's yours, when you tell the truth instead of hiding behind excuses, then this was epic. Because you're not just living. You're participating in the eternal struggle between chaos and order, good and evil, meaning and despair. And if you can stand in that place with your eyes open and your heart willing, then you're doing something magnificent. You're not just existing. You're becoming. And that, my friends, is truly epic. True epicness lies in transformation, not spectacle. When we hear the word epic, our minds immediately conjure images of grandeur, vast battles, legendary heroes, cinematic triumphs where everything explodes in a glorious climax of victory. And yet that's not what makes something truly epic. Those things are surface, level manifestations of something much deeper. They are symbols of transformation, not the substance of it. The real essence of what is epic is the process by which an individual undergoes profound change, willingly stepping into the unknown, confronting chaos, and emerging as someone who is no longer who they once were. Epicness, in its truest form, is not about what happens outside of you. It's about what happens within you. You can see this in every great story ever told. The reason myth and narrative have such staying power across cultures and across time is because they reflect the universal structure of human transformation. It's not the spectacle of the Trojan War that makes the Iliad epic. It's Achilles' inner struggle with pride, wrath, and destiny. It's not the size of Mordor that makes the Lord of the Rings epic. It's Frodo's willingness to carry an unbearable burden in the face of despair. The external world serves merely as the stage upon which the true drama unfolds the psychological, moral, and spiritual transformation of the individual. And this pattern exists in your life as well. You may not wield a sword or traverse a landscape filled with monsters, but every day you encounter situations that demand a choice to remain who you are, safe but stagnant, or to face what frightens you and grow through it. The moment you choose to grow, to transform, you step into something epic. Because the act of transformation is a form of death and resurrection. It requires the destruction of the old self, the confrontation of the unknown, and the reemergence of someone new. That's not glamorous. It's painful, disorienting, often humiliating. But it's real, and it's where all true greatness originates. The modern world confuses spectacle with significance. Social media thrives on the illusion that what is most visible is what is most meaningful. We live in an age obsessed with performance and perception. People craft digital versions of themselves that look extraordinary while their actual lives remain shallow and fragmented. And yet, if you scratch beneath that surface, you find that what truly changes a person, what makes them formidable, wise, or compassionate, is not something that can be captured in a photograph or broadcast in a post. It happens in the dark. It happens when no one is watching. It happens in the quiet hours of doubt, failure, and perseverance. That's the paradox of true epicness. It looks ordinary from the outside. The person who is genuinely transforming their life might not appear heroic. They might be sitting in therapy, trying to make sense of their own self-deception. They might be learning to forgive someone who has wronged them. They might be taking responsibility for their own failures, admitting weakness, and slowly rebuilding their integrity. Those acts don't make for spectacular entertainment, but they are infinitely more meaningful than anything the world usually celebrates. Transformation demands sacrifice. Something has to be given up so that something better can emerge. That's why it feels tragic. It's why so many people avoid it. The comfort of the familiar, even when it's destructive, is seductive. You know how to exist within your current patterns of behavior and thought, even if they're killing you. To change is to risk everything. It's to step into chaos where the old rules no longer apply and where you are stripped of your identity and certainty. But that's precisely the territory where meaning is found. The chaos of transformation contains the raw material for new life. The ancient symbol of this process is the dragon. In myth, the hero confronts the dragon, a creature that represents chaos, danger, and the unknown. The dragon guards a treasure, gold, wisdom, or the princess that the hero must obtain. But to do so, he must face death. He must step into the dark cave, confront the beast, and be willing to lose everything. The spectacle is the battle, but the transformation is the point. When the hero slays the dragon, he doesn't just acquire a treasure, he becomes someone capable of possessing it. The dragon is a mirror. It reveals the hero's inadequacies, and by facing it, the hero is reborn. In psychological terms, the dragon represents the things we fear most. The truth about ourselves that we refuse to confront, the responsibility we avoid, the suffering we try to escape. Every time you turn away from what you know you should do, you feed that dragon. It grows stronger and your capacity to face it diminishes. But when you turn toward it, when you confront the thing you least want to confront, you take back your power. You move from being a victim of circumstance to a participant in your own becoming. That's transformation. That's epicness. Most people think of transformation as something grand or mystical, but it's often humble and incremental. It's cleaning your room when you've let chaos take over your personal space. It's telling the truth when lying would be easier. It's setting a boundary when fear of rejection has kept you silent. These are the micro transformations that, when accumulated over time, produce character. And character is the evidence of a transformed soul. It's the proof that you've gone into the darkness and come back with something of value. When you commit yourself to transformation, you begin to see life differently. You realize that every difficulty carries within it the potential for growth. You start to recognize that the people you admire most are not those who've avoided suffering, but those who have transcended it. You understand that beauty itself is born out of contrast. The light means nothing without the dark. Order means nothing without chaos. And victory means nothing without the struggle that precedes it. Epicness arises from the friction between these opposites. And so the measure of an epic life isn't how many people are watching you or how loudly the world applauds. It's how deeply you've allowed yourself to change, how courageously you've confronted the unknown, and how honestly you've aligned yourself with what is true. The spectacle fades. The transformation endures, because the person you become through that process is not an image, it's reality. And that reality, that genuine, hard-earned transformation, is the essence of what it means to live an epic life. Life becomes epic when you confront chaos with courage. Chaos is the ever-present backdrop of existence, the unformed potential that surrounds us, the unpredictable force that lurks just beyond the edges of what we understand. It's the storm that threatens order, the uncertainty that tests our limits, the suffering that exposes our weaknesses. And yet, it's also the source of renewal, growth, and creation. Without chaos, There can be no transformation, no movement towards something greater. The difference between a life that collapses into despair and one that ascends toward meaning lies in how you face chaos, whether you hide from it or confront it with courage. Every person encounters chaos in their own way. It might come as tragedy, failure, loss, illness, betrayal, or confusion. It might manifest in your relationships, your work, or your own mind. The temptation always is to retreat, to build walls of denial or distraction, to protect yourself from the anxiety that chaos produces. But that strategy never works for long. The more you avoid chaos, the larger it grows in the shadows until it consumes everything you've built to keep it out. Life doesn't allow you to remain static. It insists that you adapt, evolve, and move forward. Chaos is the agent of that demand. Courage, then, is not the absence of fear, but the decision to face what you fear voluntarily. To confront chaos with courage means to walk willingly into the unknown, knowing that you might fail, suffer, and even be broken, but doing it anyway because the alternative is stagnation and decay. Courage transforms chaos into order. It's the act that converts the incomprehensible into the comprehensible, the meaningless into the meaningful. It's what gives shape to the formless potential of life. Without courage, you remain trapped in helplessness. With it, you become a participant in your own story rather than a victim of it. The structure of myth and story mirrors this eternal truth. The hero's journey always begins in the ordinary world, a place of relative comfort but quiet dissatisfaction. Then something happens, chaos intrudes, a call to adventure, a disruption, a threat. The hero could refuse that call, and many do, but the story only begins when the hero accepts it and steps beyond the boundary of the known. There, in the unknown, he faces trials that test him, terrify him, and refine him. Through courage, he transforms, and in the end, he returns home not as who he was, but as who he has become. That's not just a story, it's a psychological map of human existence. You live this out whether you're aware of it or not. Every time you choose to face a difficult truth instead of ignoring it, you are living that story. Every time you decide to take responsibility instead of making excuses, you are confronting chaos with courage. Every time you face loss, heartbreak, or uncertainty and continue to move forward, you are doing something profoundly heroic. Most people underestimate the significance of these small acts of bravery, but that's where the epic dimension of life resides, in the daily decision to face reality as it is, rather than as you wish it to be. Chaos is not just external, it's internal. It's in your thoughts, your desires, your conflicting impulses. To confront chaos courageously means to confront yourself, to examine your own limitations, lies, and resentments. That's not pleasant work. It's far easier to project the chaos outward, to blame the world or other people. But real courage involves looking in the mirror and saying, there is disorder here, and I'm responsible for bringing it into order. When you do that, you begin to align yourself with the truth, and truth is the only force powerful enough to bring stability out of chaos. There's a kind of beauty in this process. It's the beauty of potential being shaped into something meaningful. It's what makes a human life significant. The struggle against entropy, the defiance of despair, the act of creating order where there was none. This is why the moments that define us are often the hardest ones. They're the points where chaos threatens to overwhelm us, and we decide somehow to stand firm. You don't get to choose whether chaos will come. You only get to choose whether you'll face it or flee from it. To confront chaos with courage doesn't mean you eliminate fear. It means you carry it with you. Courage is the discipline of moving forward despite the trembling, despite the uncertainty. And the remarkable thing is, the very act of facing chaos changes your relationship with it. What was once terrifying becomes manageable. What was once unbearable becomes instructive. The dragon guarding the treasure begins to reveal its purpose. You realize that chaos is not purely destructive. It's the crucible in which character is forged. When you refuse to face chaos, life becomes smaller, narrower, more fragile. You lose confidence in your ability to act. You become resentful, bitter, and afraid. But when you confront chaos courageously, you expand. You develop competence, wisdom, and resilience. You become someone capable of carrying the weight of existence. That's the kind of person the world needs. Someone who doesn't crumble when confronted by the unknown, but stands up, faces it, and brings something good out of it. In that sense, courage isn't just a moral virtue, it's a creative force. It's the mechanism through which the world is continually renewed. Every civilization, every invention, every work of art, every moral breakthrough Each began as an encounter with chaos faced courageously by someone who refused to retreat. That's what it means for life to be epic. It's the endless cycle of confronting what terrifies you, shaping it into something meaningful, and emerging stronger for having done so. Meaning, not comfort, is the foundation of a heroic life. Comfort is seductive. It whispers promises of safety, ease, and satisfaction. It tells you that if you can just arrange things properly, secure enough money, gather enough approval, avoid enough pain, then you'll finally be content. And yet, anyone who has pursued comfort as their highest goal eventually discovers its emptiness. Comfort numbs, but it doesn't fulfill. It soothes temporarily, but it doesn't strengthen. It creates a life, is pleasant on the surface but hollow underneath. Meaning, on the other hand, demands something from you. It costs you your complacency. It asks for effort, sacrifice, discipline, and courage. But in return, it offers something comfort never can, a sense that your life matters. Meaning is discovered not in the pursuit of pleasure, but in the willingness to bear responsibility. Every time you take on something difficult and worthwhile, you create a bridge between who you are and who you could be. That bridge is meaning. It's what allows you to endure suffering without collapsing into despair. When your life is grounded in meaning, pain doesn't disappear, but it becomes purposeful. You can carry it, you can integrate it. And through it, you grow stronger. Comfort can only protect you from pain temporarily, but meaning transforms the pain itself into something valuable. This is why the heroes in myth never choose comfort. They leave the safety of the village, the warmth of the hearth, the predictability of routine, and venture into the unknown. They do it not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. They understand, consciously or not, that to live only for comfort is to die spiritually. Comfort may preserve the body, but it withers the soul. Meaning, by contrast, calls you to transcend your limitations, to reach for something beyond yourself, something eternal. That's why the path of meaning always feels heavier. It's the weight of purpose pressing down, reminding you that you have something worth carrying. In the modern world, the pursuit of comfort has been elevated to a kind of religion. We're told that happiness is the ultimate goal, that the good life is a life without struggle, without friction, without pain. We measure success by how much leisure we can afford, how much inconvenience we can eliminate. But happiness, when sought directly, becomes fragile. It fades the moment circumstances shift. Meaning is different. It anchors you in something deeper than circumstance. It's the realization that even in the midst of suffering, even when everything falls apart, there is still something you can aim toward that makes the struggle worthwhile. Meaning comes from alignment between your actions, your values, and the truth. When you live in contradiction, when you say one thing but do another, when you know what's right but choose what's easy, you fracture yourself. Comfort often demands that kind of fracture because truth is uncomfortable. Meaning requires the opposite. It requires that you tell the truth, even when it hurts, that you live with integrity, even when it costs you. It's not about feeling good. It's about being good. It's about standing on solid ground, knowing that your existence, however small or difficult, is oriented toward what is right and real. A heroic life is not a life free of suffering. It's a life that confronts suffering and extracts from it a reason to live. The person who pursues comfort will avoid anything that causes pain, and in doing so, they avoid everything that could make them strong, wise, or compassionate. The person who pursues meaning accepts the pain as part of the journey. They understand that responsibility is the price of significance. You can't have a meaningful life without carrying something heavy. You must pick up your cross, whatever it is for you, and bear it willingly. That's what turns existence into a moral adventure rather than a biological process. When you orient your life around meaning, even the smallest actions acquire depth. Making peace with a loved one, working diligently at your craft, telling the truth in a difficult conversation. All of these things become sacred acts because they affirm the value of being itself. Meaning elevates the ordinary. It transforms daily life into a narrative of purpose. Comfort can't do that. Comfort anesthetizes. It makes you forget that you're mortal, that time is short, that what you do matters. Meaning reminds you that every choice has weight, that every sacrifice counts, that every act of courage ripples outward into eternity. The pursuit of meaning requires continual renewal. It's not something you find once and keep forever. It's a discipline, a way of orienting yourself toward the highest possible good in every situation. That means you will often have to give up what is easy for what is right, what is pleasurable for what is necessary. But the paradox is that when you live for meaning, the moments of joy that come are deeper, more lasting, more real. They're not manufactured or fleeting. They emerge naturally from the integrity of your actions. A life built on comfort will collapse under pressure because it has no foundation. A life built on meaning can endure anything because it draws its strength from something beyond the self. When you commit to meaning, you accept that life is not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be significant. You accept that suffering is not an interruption to the story, it is the story. And by embracing that, you step into the realm of the heroic, where existence itself becomes a noble struggle rather than a series of distractions designed to keep you comfortable. Small acts of truth and responsibility create lasting impact. People often imagine that the great movements of history are driven by massive, visible events. Wars, revolutions, speeches that shake nations. But the deeper reality is that the world is held together by the accumulation of small, honest actions. Every civilization, every moral structure, every bond of trust depends on individuals who choose to do what is right in the moments when no one is watching. Truth and responsibility are the twin pillars upon which meaning and order rest, and every act that reinforces them, no matter how small, ripples outward in ways that can't be easily measured but can be profoundly felt. Telling the truth is not a simple task. It's not just about avoiding lies, it's about aligning your words, thoughts, and actions with reality. It's the decision to confront what is real, even when it's painful, rather than hiding behind comforting illusions. Truth is dangerous because it exposes you. It forces you to see what you've ignored, to admit what you've done, and to take responsibility for what you can change. But it's also liberating. It's the only force that can dissolve the chaos of deceit and restore order to your life. Every time you tell the truth, especially when it costs you something, you strengthen your character and contribute to the moral structure of the world. Responsibility operates in the same way. It's the willingness to bear the weight of existence. To say, I will take care of this, even when you don't have to. Most people underestimate how much of life's meaning emerges from responsibility. Caring for your family, showing up to work on time, keeping your promises, maintaining order in your home. These acts may seem mundane, but they form the foundation of stability. When you fulfill your responsibilities faithfully, you create a small pocket of order in the midst of chaos. And when enough people do that, society itself becomes livable. It's easy to dismiss small acts as insignificant, but that's a mistake born from pride. People want to do something grand, something that will be remembered. They dream of changing the world, but often refuse to change themselves. Yet all genuine transformation begins locally, within the individual. You can't set the world right if your own soul is disordered. You can't demand honesty from institutions if you're dishonest in your personal life. Every great reformer, every moral leader began by confronting the truth within themselves and assuming responsibility for their own conduct. That's the seed from which real impact grows. Think about what happens when you tell a single truth in a situation built on lies. You may feel the tension rise, you may face rejection or hostility, but you've just introduced light into darkness. You've disrupted a system of falsehood that depended on silence and complicity. Even if your truth seems small, it invites others to act honestly as well. Integrity is contagious. When one person refuses to participate in deceit, it emboldens others to follow. That's how cultural change begins, not with grand declarations, but with individual acts of moral clarity. Responsibility functions similarly. When you take ownership of your actions, you model what it means to live with integrity. You show others that it's possible to be reliable, trustworthy, and disciplined. You become a reference point in a world that often rewards avoidance and excuses. And that influence extends far beyond what you can see. A child who watches a parent work diligently learns that effort matters. A colleague who sees you admit a mistake learns that honesty is strength, not weakness. These examples seem small, but they accumulate, forming a chain of influence that spans generations. The inverse is also true. Every time you shirk responsibility or bend the truth, you weaken yourself and contribute to the collective decay of trust. Lies spread like rot. Irresponsibility multiplies like weeds. The smallest compromise erodes your integrity, and when enough people do that, entire systems collapse. History is filled with examples of societies that fell not because of a single catastrophic event, but because truth and responsibility were gradually abandoned. Corruption, Cynicism and moral apathy are simply the long-term consequences of countless small failures to tell the truth or accept responsibility. To live truthfully and responsibly requires vigilance. It demands that you pay attention, that you resist the temptation to take the easy path. The truth often reveals your inadequacies, and responsibility burdens you with obligations that can feel overwhelming. But within that struggle lies meaning. Every time you act truthfully, you affirm that reality matters more than comfort. Every time you take responsibility, you affirm that order is better than chaos. And those affirmations accumulate into a life that has substance. You might never see the full effects of your actions. The truth you tell today might not bear fruit for years. The responsibility you shoulder might go unnoticed, but the impact is real nonetheless. The world is a network of interconnected actions and consequences, and every honest word or dutiful act strengthens the fabric of that network. It's the difference between a world that descends into nihilism and one that moves toward order and meaning. The heroic life is not built on dramatic gestures. It's built on consistency, on the daily choice to be truthful, to take responsibility, and to trust that those small acts, repeated over time, are enough to move the world in the right direction. The real epic is becoming who you're meant to be through struggle. Every human being is born with potential, a collection of possibilities that exist like seeds waiting to be cultivated. But potential alone means nothing. It's unrealized energy, dormant and inert until is called forth by challenge, resistance, and pain. Struggle is the forge that shapes potential into character, chaos into order, and possibility into actuality. The process is uncomfortable, often excruciating, but it is through that very discomfort that we become someone capable of standing upright in the world. Becoming who you are meant to be is not a matter of comfort or luck. It's a battle fought daily against your own weaknesses, fears, and excuses. Every meaningful story of transformation is grounded in struggle. Myths and legends have always portrayed the path to greatness as a journey filled with trials because that mirrors the structure of life itself. The hero doesn't simply wake up one morning transformed. He must earn his transformation through suffering. He ventures into the unknown, confronts chaos, faces his own inadequacies, and emerges changed. The struggle is not an obstacle to becoming, it is the process of becoming. Without it, you remain untested, untempered, incomplete. The heat of struggle burns away what is false and leaves behind what is real. In our time, many people have come to fear struggle, to interpret difficulty as a sign that something has gone wrong. We've built cultures around comfort, ease, and convenience, believing that the good life is the one with the least resistance. But the paradox is that removing all struggle does not make life better. It makes it empty. Struggle gives life texture and depth. It's what gives value to success and meaning to endurance. Without it, there's no story worth telling. You can't become strong without resistance. You can't develop wisdom without failure. You can't discover courage without fear. Everything that refines you as a person is hidden within the very struggle you wish to avoid. When you confront a challenge, you meet the part of yourself that is still unformed. The struggle exposes your limits. It shows you where you are weak, dishonest, or unprepared. That can be terrifying because it forces you to confront who you actually are rather than who you imagine yourself to be. But that's where genuine transformation begins. When you stop running from your limitations and start wrestling with them, you begin to grow. Every failure becomes feedback. Every setback becomes instruction. Every hardship becomes the teacher that shows you how to become more competent, more disciplined, more whole. There's a spiritual dimension to this as well. Struggle is not just psychological or physical, it's moral. It tests the alignment of your soul. In times of struggle, you face choices that define your character, whether to give in to bitterness or to persevere, whether to lie to escape responsibility or to tell the truth and endure the consequences, whether to collapse under pressure or to rise. These choices accumulate, forming the architecture of who you are. The person who emerges from struggle is not just stronger in skill, but deeper in spirit. They've touched something eternal. The understanding that suffering, when faced willingly, can be redemptive. Struggle also humbles you. It dismantles arrogance and entitlement. It teaches you that you are not the center of the universe, that you are fragile, limited, dependent on others, and on forces beyond your control. But in that humility, you discover a more grounded kind of strength, the kind that isn't based on illusion or pride, but on endurance and faith. You learn that you can withstand more than you thought, that the act of standing firm in the face of chaos is itself an act of defiance against meaninglessness. That realization can change everything. It's the moment when you stop resenting the struggle and start embracing it as the very thing that gives your life purpose. Becoming who you're meant to be doesn't happen quickly. It's a gradual process of refinement, a long unfolding. You fail, you learn, you fall again, and slowly, almost imperceptibly, you rise. The struggle carves you into shape. Each trial removes something unnecessary, your vanity, your laziness, your fear, and replaces it with discipline, wisdom, and integrity. And one day, perhaps after years of effort, you realize that you have become someone capable of bearing the weight of your own existence. Someone who can look the world in the eye without flinching. That's what it means to become yourself. Most people think they want an easy life, but what they truly crave is a meaningful one. And meaning only emerges from the tension between who you are and who you could be. Struggle is the bridge between those two states. It's the path that forces you to act, to sacrifice, to aim higher. The greater the struggle, the greater the potential for transformation. When you stop avoiding it and start embracing it, life itself becomes epic. Not because it's free from pain, but because every moment of pain becomes part of a larger narrative of becoming. That's where the beauty lies, in the ongoing act of transformation, in the courage to face the darkness and continue forward anyway, in the realization that the person you are today is not the end of your story, but the raw material for something greater that struggle alone can reveal.